Well, it's day 2 of my Cork to Dublin passage, and you might be saying, hey Alan, where's Ray? Wasn't there another guy with you? Yes, Ray was my crew, and we were both looking forward to this passage. We have been planning it for actually a few weeks, but unfortunately, shortly after Ray stepped on board yesterday morning, he started feeling unwell. It's not seasickness, I'll make that clear. It was food poisoning, and it just became, he just couldn't do anything. He had to lay down. He couldn't keep anything down, not even water. So it became an issue. And you know, as a good skipper, you're in charge of the welfare of your crew. And so I had to detour. It was about a 4 to 5 hour detour by the time I got into East Dunmore. Yeah, that's what it was called. East Dunmore, beautiful little town. I was only there for 10 minutes, just long enough to drop Ray off. His sister lives there, so he was able to get assistance immediately. Anyway, it was back to sea, and it was right around sunset that this whole medical evacuation happened, so I wasn't able to film any of it. So I spent then the rest of the night actually battling pretty high seas and pretty strong winds to get around Cansor Point, which is one of these bottlenecks between Ireland and Wales, and then continues on up the east coast between all the way to Dublin, right across to England then. So it makes for very interesting sailing. So that's where I am, day 2, and it is a lovely day. This is probably one of the nicest days I've had since arriving in Ireland. I don't know what that says. Maybe you know, someone's looking out for me somewhere. Well, Rovers, it's time to prepare my daily meal, and it's Rover seafood omelette. If you've been following the series, you know all about this, but if you're new to the channel, here it is. So we've got 8 eggs. Now, normally I would go with 6, but these were really small eggs, so 8, and then I'll just whip them up. Now, to go with the eggs, I've got a tin of mackerel, a tin of salmon, a tin of sardines, and a tin of kippers. And I'll be mixing those into the eggs. And then just mix them in. Next, put a little bit of beef tallow in the pan, just let that melt down, and then we'll cook our eggs on top of that. Now just pour the eggs in. Now that's what it should look like, and then just cover. And in about 10 minutes you can turn the pot off and let it stand for about 5 or 10 minutes, and then she's ready to eat. All right, let's take a taste. Now that's what we're talking about. Well, Rovers, yesterday when I was sailing along, I lost the wind after going past Arklow Bank. So then I was forced to motor. Now I think that I probably would have made it all the way to Malahide, which is my destination. It's a port just north of Dublin, had I not had to stop at East Dunmore to do the medical evacuation. So all things considered, I then would have to motor. So I thought to myself, well, if I motor to Greystones Harbor, that's halfway from where I am to Malahide, and then I'll do the other half the following day, because you don't want to motor at night. There are too many fish traps with floats in the waters I'd be motoring in, and it would just get fouled up in the propeller. And you get these really, really strong tides right through the Irish Sea. It's up to 2 or more knots one direction and switches over the other direction every approximately 6 hours. So you want to use those 2 knots to your advantage. But then as I was passing Wicklow, and Wicklow's a lovely little town, and people have been telling me, you've got to stop in Wicklow, but I thought, oh, I need to get to Malahide. And then I got this message from a fella, Kevin Conway, in Wicklow, saying, "Come on into Wicklow. I'll look after you, and I'll give you a nice tour of the town." So that's what I did. Met him last night, and coincidentally, he lives out of town, but he asked someone in his club if they'd come down and help me use the shower facility here from the sailing club. And the guy showed up, but he didn't have the keys, but he said, no worries, perfect stranger, and invited me into his home, use his shower. It was so nice. Met his wife and family, and they were just absolutely lovely. This is Irish hospitality at its finest. Met up with Kevin, and then we'll be meeting up again in a few minutes, and we'll take a quick tour of Wicklow. Then I'll be back underway again with the current on my way to Malahide. We're just on a little tour of the countryside here in Wicklow. Beautiful little church, but what really caught my eye was this over here, this bridge. Couldn't you just sit here and listen to this forever? It's another beautiful structure. No more money over here. I would imagine this would have fish. Would it?
Some sort of trout or something else.
Very lucky to have Kevin Conway with me, who's a local and has given me a tour of Wicklow. Thank you so much.
Very welcome.
So this is Glen Loch, and St. Kevin is reported to have lived just up in this mountain up here in a little hole. We can't clearly see it, and spent years living there, and it's just a beautiful lake. This is a park. You're not allowed to have boating or anything in it. Just another beautiful, peaceful location in Wicklow. There was a time in my life where I actually wanted to move here and live here in Wicklow. Beautiful. So if you look carefully, you'll see some sheep in this video. Some hiding right there. So what's really interesting about this power station is that just above me at the top of this mountain, and you can't see it, there's a man-made reservoir. And inside this tunnel right behind me, there are turbines. And the water comes down from that man-made reservoir into the lake we just saw, and it generates electricity. But it generates more than they actually consume. So then the water is then pumped back up to the reservoir. So it's like one of those green power projects that actually makes sense and gives very, very reliable energy. All right, back on my tour. So we're now in Wicklow, the town of Wicklow. Look at this beautiful bridge, what we can see of it here. Nice. And the harbor's just the other side of this bus. There we go. A nice mural of Wicklow in the day. There's something that's really beautiful about being tied up, not in a marina, but in an actual working dock. I've really enjoyed my stay here in Wicklow. It was something that wasn't planned, but something I'm so happy I made the time for. So just in a few minutes I'll be underway again, heading to Malahide, but just take a look at these murals. So there's an artist, a retired postman, who does these, and they're just absolutely gorgeous. I think there are 68, I think he said, and they just go on and on. Some are really large. I asked him if he'd do one of Wave Rover. He said he would, but we'll it may be a few other ships that are ahead of mine. You can see the top of the mast. There should be a radar reflector, but that was ripped off on the way from Virginia Beach to the Azores in what I believe was the night that I had 45 knot winds. So all you can see is a tiny bit of aluminum that's bolted onto the masthead fitting. Well, the wind stopped blowing, so we decided to come into Wicklow town, and what a great little spot. And the only reason I was going to just motor on all the way up to Greystones, but one of the Rover heroes, Kevin, got a hold of me and said, why not spend the night here? I'll host you in the town of Wicklow, and he took me for a tour around the place. It's been great. So, as always, Rovers, thanks for watching, and forge your own adventure.